I like to see what the elites are doing, what the what's happening in the hood, what's going on in hip hop, what's happening in black technology and all that. So I was watching this video, and there's this rapper Glorilla. In case you haven't heard of Glorilla, she's a good rapper. She's very talented, and her tunes kind of catchy and everything else. And she has these family members that feel like she hasn't given back. They feel like, hey, you ain't keeping it real. You ain't hooking nobody up. And so her sister, who's a real character, her sister is a character. That's all I got to say. Her sister is a complete character. Has been out basically kind of saying, "Yo, look, what's going on? Like you ain't did nothing." I be telling all the family's business. I mean, just stuff that just make you blush, like, "Oh Lord Jesus, thank you God for not giving me relatives like that." Where she's basically been online talking about the roaches in the house and peeing in the bed and just the stuff that the stuff we prefer to leave back in the hood. A lot of us a lot of us remember those days. We know what government cheese tastes like and what it feels like to not have no food. But some of us, we're determined to change things, and some of it may be a little bit of fortune, and then some of it though might just be decision making, right? So anyway, I wanted to bring this up because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there's a lot of research actually on family members and just how to deal with what might be called like family drag. In terms of, okay, everybody is here and you done got here. And it is a lot of celebrities will give a speech and they'll say, when I went to this level, I couldn't deal with you no more if you was on that level. You know what I mean? You ever hear those speeches? Like I think I heard Magic Johnson give a speech like that, basically saying, as you rise, you have to cut people off. And that's true and it's false, right? It's true and it's false in the sense that, yeah, some people got to get cut off because some people will get you locked up. They will destroy you. They will disrupt your peace every chance they get. But then, like some people, sometimes we cut everybody off, right? And you forget where you came from. You forget who did it for you. I remember Vivica Fox. I liked this speech personally, where she said to her family in Indianapolis. I think that's where she was from. But forgive me if I got it wrong. But she was basically saying, "Look, if I ever act like I'm too good for y'all, I need y'all to put me back in my place, right?" And also, my wife is from Gary, Indiana, and Lisa Ray, the actress from I think she spent some time in Gary, and I met Lisa in at an event I did in Phoenix, and I was with my wife's cousin who ran with Lisa 30 years ago back in the day, and she came in and immediately was like, right? So to me, it's kind of like, like who wants to have success if you can't share it with people that you're close to? So nobody knows, like what's really going on here. I mean, people are going to judge and they're going to say, oh, if your relatives act like this, then da, da, da. But maybe there's a legitimate gripe. Nobody knows, right? It's a personal choice. But I want to give you some insights on this because a lot of us deal with this, right? Like, has anybody ever dealt with that? Like maybe where you have a little bit more money than other relatives, and there are people who think you owe them something and you don't really agree, or maybe you did a lot for them and they still just kind of are like, well, you ain't did nothing, you haven't done as much as I think you should have done. That's what I tend to see. What I tend to see is that sometimes the people that get maddest at you for not doing more are the people that you've done the most for. Has anybody ever dealt with that, where literally you're like, wait a minute, you're telling me I don't do nothing for you? I was there for you when nobody else was there for you. I done emptied my pockets for you several times. At what point do I finish paying my debt to society, right? At what point can I get out of this emotional prison that you're keeping me in because you haven't learned accountability? And the reality is, when you're talking about an oppressed group of people like ourselves, sometimes oppression has this ugly side effect of leading people to believe that they are not responsible at all for their fate, right? This is where people accuse me of sounding like a Republican. I ain't no damn Republican. I just believe in personal responsibility, right? Who said the Republicans own have some sort of copyright or trademark on personal responsibility? They don't. I believe that me getting up at 5 o'clock this morning is gonna lead to a different life than I would have had if I got up at 11, right? I believe that me working hard in the gym is going to have a different outcome than me running straight to Popeye's chicken every morning. I believe that me working hard and studying every day is going to have a different outcome from me yes, smoking weed and drinking liquor all day, right? And so sometimes you have relatives who make different choices, and I don't think you have to judge the choices, but you can't say, hey, look, we just bought different tickets. You bought the ticket to the shit show. I bought the ticket to the rich show. I'm gonna be rich. You're gonna be in the shit. You're in the mud. I'm gonna be in the clouds. And but we maybe we started at the same place and could have made the same choices, right? I chose long-term gratification. You chose instant gratification, right? When you were partying, I was studying. So therefore, we're not supposed to be in the same place. And it ain't just because I got lucky. It ain't just because Jesus blessed me and he forgot about you, right? It ain't because because racism only hit you and it never hit me. No, it's because we just made different choices, right? And is that okay? Is it okay for me to say that choices matter? Like, is that all right for me to say that? Because I think sometimes we forget about that, and I think people clump the whole black community up into a big ball, like the ball of oppression, like because you're a black male, you're supposed to have this and this and this, and you're supposed to be an alcoholic and a drug addict and unemployed and lost and uneducated. It's like no, 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 no. But I knew some black males. Look at Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback of the Chiefs. Did y'all know? I don't know if y'all know this, but his daddy just got locked up. Like, his daddy will literally be in jail during the Super Bowl. His daddy got locked up because his daddy had something going on. He got a few DUIs and then he violated his probation because you ain't supposed to drink. And now his daddy's in prison. That ain't got a lot to do with Patrick. Now, mind you, Patrick owes something to his father, though, right? His father, there's little old pictures of Patrick's dad when he was a baseball player, 30 years ago, holding his son and taking care of him, 20 something years ago. I don't even think Patrick's 30 years old yet. And so maybe there's something there, right, in terms of owing, but there's a stopping point, right? There's a stopping point where you got to say, okay, Dad, look, you're choosing liquor over whatever else you could be choosing. Some of that's going to have to land on you. So anyway, let's go back to this whole thing with the rapper Glorilla, and I see this as a microcosm of the wealth challenges of millions of black families, right? There are some people who describe it that don't understand it. Like I heard Bobby Knight, the great coach at Indiana, describe it in a way that I thought was inappropriate and almost a little racist, where he basically said, the black guys, they come in and their families want this and they want that, and they don't know how to cut them off, and they're taking care of everybody, and next thing you know, they have no money. I think that that's an overly simplified way to look at it, because I happen to believe that if the village made you, the village should be paid. The village, they did the making, they should get some of the money, right? But it's at the same time though, it's sometimes people in the village don't have your best interest at heart or bring bad habits around you, and it can disrupt your ability to build or to protect what you have, right? So anyway, with this said, let me give you some stats here on this. First off, let's see. In the U.S., 59% of parents say they give financial help to a child 18 to 34 years old, or they've given financial help to a child 18 to 34 years old in the past year. So most of the time, one person doing well in the family means that there's wealth transfers. A lot of times it's happening with parents and kids, like especially now, the Gen Zers. Anybody got kids is still, like 30, still asking for money. That's a common thing. What else? In terms of also, let's see, what's another, there was another stat I saw here. Um, let's see here. Adult children receiving money from parents for higher education is 33%, 52% the middle third, and 61% top third. So for home purchases is 6%. So 6%. Wait, that doesn't make sense. This stat, I'm reading this stat. This is terrible. Let me see here. No, no, no. Let me find something else. This is these stats are bad. In fact, let me actually jump to something else. The stats, just let's just pretend like I didn't do that. Let's go to some psychological theories in terms of what's happening here or what can happen. And these are things that might help you navigate what's going on. So first off, there's something called mobility melancholy, or AKA you might know this as survivor's guilt. And basically in psychology, survivor's guilt, it isn't just for disasters. It happens when people have upward mobility. And the research suggests that individuals who kind of make it out of the hood or make it out of tough situations usually feel a sense of betrayal toward their roots, right? You ever see that when you go back and people say you've changed? And I'm like, well, of course I have. I have a PhD now. Like I'm not 17, right? Or you're different. Well, yeah, because I actually don't want to do the destructive things I used to. No, I don't smoke crack no more. So yeah, I'm much different when I'm off crack than I was when I was on it, right? So yeah, you have changed, right? And the research, so this mobility melancholy means you may feel that your success is a result of luck rather than just hard work. Which leads to a debt you feel to those you left behind. So a lot of times we might feel pressured to believe that all those thousands of hours of labor that you put into your success, that it was still somehow luck, right? We don't make that distinction, or we'll look at somebody. Have you ever looked at somebody in your family who was struggling and always kind of got tempted to believe like if they just had somebody help them out, or that things would be much better? Like if they just had somebody help them get out of their situation, like suddenly their life would change. Anybody ever felt that way? How many of you have ever been tempted to believe that that story that tends to be BS most of the time? I believe me, I'm in that category. I believe that a lot. The gosh, if somebody just helped him out or gave him a job or gave him an opportunity, no, it's like it doesn't mean you shouldn't. It just means that and 9 times out of 10, there's like there's literally I don't know how many of you. Let's do it like this. How many of you are old enough to feel like you have had success in your life in some area, like you've achieved something professionally or something unique that you've done, something you've accomplished where you're like, yeah, I did that. I got 100,000 in my stock portfolio. I lost 150 pounds. I became a corporate executive, or I got I finished medical school, right? Okay, tell me if you agree with this. I would argue, and I think this is important for young people to really understand, is that it's not like that level of success comes from like one big decision or one big action you take. It comes from like thousands of like little micro decisions that you're making on a constant basis, right? Like literally every day I make about 30 or 40 decisions that shape the life that I have. It's not one decision, it's a million things that happen in a week. Right. And so what I learned is that you can't change that for nobody. Like I can't go and micromanage your life and help you with every single decision that you have to make in a given day. You have to at some point adopt a philosophy such that you're going to continue to make these course corrections all throughout your day. It's like driving a car. I think reminds me of driving a car, like where you're heading in a general direction. I was helping Tater drive yesterday, which is just quite a scary experience. She didn't hit the trash can this time though, thank God. Anyway, so she's driving and what she does sometimes is she'll overcorrect. And I'll be like, no, Taylor, don't go too far to the left because you know that car's headed right toward us. We're going to crash right into it. So you got to kind of turn. You got to stay cool when you do that because if you panic, it just won't work. Anyway, so she's driving, but when you drive your car, you're kind of doing this constantly, right? You're kind of constantly course correcting. You're making turns. You're whatever. So really, it would be impossible to drive if somebody said, "Okay, I'm going to drive from here to New York, and I'm just going to go left and just drive straight." Right? I'm going to make one decision to turn left, and that's it. Right? That's not going to happen, right? Because you make 1,000 turns. You have to make 1,000 little corrections to keep yourself straight on the road. Life is kind of like that. You have a road that you're traveling, and you got to make 1,000 corrections. It's hard to train somebody on how to do that, right? It comes back to like having a philosophy, like defining who you are, right? Like typically great people. In case you want to know, like what I think this is just the Dr. Boyd's philosophy. A lot of times people that are great, like say a Michael Jordan, it's not because he's made one decision to be great. He's making 1,000 little decisions that all course correct him back to a specific philosophy. His philosophy. Dominique Wilkins was talking about what it was like to play with Michael Jordan. He said it was insane because his eyes would be bloodshot red and he would be determined to dominate you every time he played. Kobe Bryant was the same way. Kobe Bryant, my friend, one of my buddies, Mark Lamont Hill. We don't agree on a lot of stuff, but Mark and I are friends. And Mark played. He had the misfortune of playing against Kobe in high school. He said, "I played against Kobe a bunch of times and he never let me hit one shot. Like I never hit one shot against him because he refused to allow you to score one time." Right? Which is insane, right? So that consistent, relentless commitment to a standard is what defined every action that he took in his life, right? So anyway, that's just a little tip. Not that y'all asked for all that, but just in case you're wondering or you want to share that, maybe that'll help you in your journey. All right. Same thing with investing. Same thing, right? Especially right now, the stock market's kicking you in the butt a little bit. It's acting a little bit weird. Um, You course correct. What's the goal? What's the standard? What's the philosophy? What's the big picture? And if you know the big picture, then that will define the little picture. That will lead you to the conclusion. Like when we study stock options, we did a long 2 hour session on stock options last night. And I said, well, when you're making a stock options decision, you ask yourself two questions, and the answers to the first two questions leads to the answer to the third question. The questions are, what do you believe? Do you believe the stock will go up? Do you believe it will go down? Do you believe it's going to go sideways? What are you afraid of? I'm afraid it's going to go too high, or I'm going to miss out. I'm afraid it's going to go too low, and I'm going to lose money. I'm afraid of what, right? What do you believe? What are you afraid of? And then that answers the third question, which is what do you want? Right? Like so you look at sort of what you think and how you feel, and then that determines what you do next, right? So your decisions to some extent are not even really decisions. They're really algorithms in a way that are connected to a broader objective. Does that make sense? Right? It's like I'm not when I get up, I make 1,000 decisions, but I'm not making a decision because really I made the big decision a long time ago, which was a standard of excellence. And therefore, when I get up and I say, well, who are you going to be today, Boyce? And I'm like, well, I guess I have to be him because this is the guy I want to be. Well, guess what? Every decision that I make has to be wired back to him. I'm on a road and I got to keep on turning the wheel a certain way, not because I'm feeling like going left or feeling like going right, but because that keeps me on the road that I chose. Does it make sense? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Man, this is heavy. Thank you, Glorilla, and thank you to your crazy sister. You're making me really think about stuff. Anyway, so yeah, so anyway, in case you don't know, we're talking about Glorilla. She has this sister that like is a she's a hoot. I think this girl can make a whole lot of money. She's gotta go start a YouTube channel and monetize that damn thing and just get on there and just talk crazy, tell old Glorilla stories. She'll make at least 100,000 a year off that. Like, cause people were watching, they were really entertained by this lady. But it was kind of ratchet though. Like, kind of like, come on, man. Like, why are you doing that to your family? So if you put the ratchetness to the side, that's where your money is. Your money's in YouTube, like not at your sister's house. All right. So anyway, so second theory is something called family systems theory, homeostasis. Check this out. Family systems theory views the family as an emotional unit. So when one person changes significantly, so when one person becomes rich or whatever, it disrupts the homeostasis. Isn't that deep? It disrupts the homeostasis. So the research says that to regain balance, the system sometimes exerts change back pressure. If you were the generous one or the provider, the family will use guilt or demands to pull you back into your old role. So they'll kind of just say, "Hey, you're not the same. You should," and so maybe you give extra money or whatever because you want to fit in. And the pressure is that asking for money is often a subconscious way for the family to level the playing field. Like, hey, can't you hook me? You ain't gonna hook nobody up, right? So they level the playing field, ensuring that you remain tethered to the family's existing financial culture rather than evolving away from it. And this is a complex thing. I'm a believer in giving and supporting people that you love and people that were there for you. I really believe that. I don't think I think it's really weird that when you have an athlete that goes to the NFL or NBA and suddenly he's surrounded by all these white people that didn't want nothing to do with him when he was in the hood. I personally think the people that should be at the front of the line to benefit from your success should be the people who took care of you when nobody cared about you, right? When you were like that little hungry 14-year-old kid in Miami, who could have possibly be a football star, and your coach was making sure that you got to eat every day. Well, you should be hooking up that coach. I think he should get a return on his investment. I don't think he should be forgotten in exchange for this little Jewish lawyer that just happened to pop into your life because you were the number one draft pick, right? So I do think that giving back really does matter, but I do think that everything has to have limits, right? Everything's about balance. And also, everything's also about sort of understanding that, to some extent, when you are that successful, you become the tree from which everyone gets their fruit. People come to that tree. Your tree has abundance and abundance of fruit and nourishment. People are grabbing fruit off that tree. Well, you know what happens if everybody is just constantly pulling off the tree? Eventually, the tree gets weak and it withers and it dies. So you've got to make sure if you're going to provide the fruit, you must also take care of the tree. So while I might want to provide financial security for him and her and support this and support that, I got to make sure I'm watering the tree. Right? You got to make sure you're taking care of the root, take care of the thing that's taking care of everybody else. Same thing like with a mother. You have mothers that will work, that will literally run themselves ragged taking care of so many other people. You probably know somebody like that. Maybe you are that person, and you're not getting enough sleep. You ain't never got no money. You're always stressed out. You're always trying to carry the load. You're doing everything for everybody, from the kids to the pastor to whatever, and nobody's really stopping to say, hey, you know what? You need a spa day, right? You need to rest. You need to sleep for a while or whatever, right? And I think this is what happens when the family structure breaks down. I did some research on this, and I found that and this is just facts. This is not me trying to be political, but women don't handle stress physically the same way men do. Women are not as built for the rugged soldier, provider, conqueror life. It's not to say women can't do it. We see it all the time. But literally, all that cortisol and all that fight or flight energy literally kills you. It literally that's what will cause the cancer and the heart disease and all the things that black women are dying from. And basically, when I read the biology, which was, again, it was completely apolitical, they were like, yeah, like women kind of operate best in the soft life, like when they know they're fully protected, and there's the man kind of like growling at everybody and protecting, kind of like the gangster goose story, which I've probably told 1,000 times. I'm not going to tell it again, but if you want to find it, just look up it's, yeah, it's where I was running on the path and the goose was guarding the woman, his baby mama, and he was ready to fight me over her. And she didn't even know what was good. She was just like oblivious. She was just chilling. She was focusing on being a mom because she knew her husband was going to handle that, right? And I kind of felt like, man, this feels so natural. This feels so Animal Kingdom, like this is the way it's supposed to be. Like you're supposed to kick my ass to protect your family, keep me away, and so that your woman can just chill. Like she ain't supposed to be trying to fight me and have a baby at the same time. That's not natural. That's not normal. So ultimately, long story short, these things do matter, right? So ultimately, I would say, so if you are that person who's the financial superstar, you are the one who's doing really well, I would encourage you, keep doing good things for people. I think that that's okay, but always make sure that the balance is there. Like what, for example, one thing I do is I tell my kids that charity is not as interesting to me as trade. I like trade. I don't like charity. Trade benefits both parties. Charity depletes one party and enables the other. Right? So I'm not here to harm you by enabling you by giving you constant charity, but I am here to support you by being a great investment partner, right? So if you come to me with a business proposal, you come to me with something that's a win-win, then that's great because that means you win and the family wins. How about that? But if you come to me like with your hand out, I'm gonna be like, well, my name is not Wick. And, I am not John Wick. So this is not going to happen. This is not. I am not a welfare office. I can. You want $1,000? Here's 100, and then when you come to me with something real, I can give you $2,000. But I'm not here to enable you. That's not appropriate, right? So let's keep going. So when you get these individuals that have a lot of money and they have big entourages of people that just get money for no reason, no apparent reason whatsoever, not only is that not healthy for anybody, but that's what depletes people, right? Because you can't. You're in a scenario where you haven't realized what money actually is. Money is actually supposed to be capital. Capital is supposed to be preserved. It's not supposed to be doled out to everybody. So I make $10 million, and I'm sitting here processing. I heard that basketball player Sebastian Telfair. I heard him talk about how he blew through $20 million, and he was literally talking about it like it was like, okay, he said, well, the IRS takes 10 and I've only got $10 million, and I live off that for 5 years. What am I going to do after that? And I'm like, well, you're supposed to invest that 10 million and live off the interest. You're not supposed to be eating through your 10 million. If you buy a cow, and you buy a bunch of chickens, you're supposed to sell the eggs and the milk, man. You're not supposed to have a big steak and chicken dinner and then go broke again. Because then you got to go out and get more cows and get more chickens. Every now and then you can have a steak dinner, but if the cow gets too old to produce any more milk, then you say, hey, let's chop this sucker up and let's have a ribeye. But damn it, man, you ain't supposed to like eat a baby cow. You're supposed to raise that sucker, and then you get maybe you have some heifers. They're not. That's not derogatory. I think that's what they're called, the female cows. And then you go get you a bull, and you go get all them heifers pregnant. Oh my God, that sounds so ghetto, but it's true. That's what they do. And because you ever see that? You ever see where the bull gets a? I saw this one time where they had a whole field. I'm not gonna call them heifers no more because that just sounds trifling. They had a whole bunch of female cows and just chilling, just waiting on a man. And they let one bull off the damn truck, And all those female cows were all around this guy. And I said, man, he's gonna have some Diddy parties up in there. But that breeding is like that's what they're doing. They're taking their capital base and they're expanding it. It's just like investing. That's how money's supposed to work. You breed your money. Actually, in my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, I refer to it as financial fertility. It's like your money's supposed to give birth. Your money's supposed to reproduce. Your money's supposed to have children. It's not supposed to be given away and spent so readily. It doesn't mean you spend what you have to, but your goal is to get a capital base that will sustain you. And we never learned that in school, so that's what keeps people on the constant treadmill. You get a somebody gives you a few chickens and a cow, and then you're like a week later like, hey, I ate the chickens and I ate the cow, now I need another cow. No, you're supposed to have that cow for a while. Does that make sense? And do you get the whole thing? All right, so anyway, moving on. All right, so the other thing that pops up here is there's something called equity theory and distributive justice, and it said equity theory posits that people become distressed if they perceive an imbalance between what they contribute and what they receive compared to others in their circle. So most people in their head have a number or have an amount that they believe that you owe them. That's just it. Like it makes it sounds bad, but that's what it is. People are like, "Hey, I did this for you. I got you out of jail. Therefore, you owe me forever." And you might be like, "No, I don't owe you forever. I owe you for a little while." Or you've probably gone through that maybe where you did something for somebody and then they just kind of forgot about you. And that tends to happen though. Like people do forget. People are like, "What have you done for me lately?" Really is kind of a thing. And so I think the rule is like I try not to do more for people than if I'm not willing to do it and then just be happy I did it, then I don't do it. Like if I do it and I expect something in return, if it's not explicitly stated that the return is going to happen, then I either won't do it or I'm going to have a conversation, right? And so anyway, distributive justice. The research says that family members may perceive your success as a collective win. They see it as a win for the family, which it kind of is actually rather than an individual achievement. They may feel that because they provided emotional support or shared resources during your childhood, they are entitled to a percentage of the output now. So the pressure is that when they press you for money, they aren't necessarily being greedy in their minds. In their minds, they're attempting to restore what they see as distributive justice that says, I poured into you, I took care of you, I did this for you, so you owe me something. And I don't think that's completely wrong. Like who wouldn't feel like their mother deserves something when they become successful? But it's kind of like, okay, what's the balance and like how far should that go? And also, one of the challenges, one of the reasons that it's difficult to build wealth in the black community is because it's hard to build wealth in the middle of poverty. It's very hard to build wealth in the middle of economic struggle. It's very, very difficult. If you're getting rich and you have a bunch of rich friends, I don't know. I don't know. Have you ever been around like a lot of rich people before? They don't care how much money you have. They don't care who's going to pay the bill when you go eat at a restaurant. They'll fight. They'll argue over who gets to pay. Right? They don't. They It's like they're not gonna. Your rich friends are not gonna borrow money from you because they're doing fine. Right? But if you're the only rich guy and everybody around you is broke, it's really difficult. It's pressure. So you go out to eat, the bill comes, everybody looks at you. That's me. That's my life actually, right? They all go to the bathroom. The check comes. I'm sitting at the table by myself, and, everybody got to pee all of a sudden, right? And it's okay. I don't care if you're one of my friends. Don't feel bad. I got it. But it's like and if I didn't got it, if I don't got it, if I don't want to got it, then I'm not gonna be there. So if I cancel dinner on you and it's like 10 of us, just know that's probably why. So anyway, with that said, it's like it's really hard, and ultimately there would be kind of a conversation about that. And so when you have the poverty and the economic struggle back home and you go off and you become successful, it's pretty much kind of written that there's like this sort of internal and external expectation that you're the superhero, you're the savior for other people. And that becomes even worse than when you look at the breakdown of the black family. Um, the economic struggles of the black family and the breakdown of the family has made it so that when the children go out and achieve something, they they have the double burden of reaching back and trying to go forward at the same time. I remember when I finished my PhD program, I didn't realize how much of a blessing it was that I had two really financially responsible parents. They didn't make a lot of money, but they kept the money that they had, and they didn't do anything fancy. They didn't buy stock at all. All they did was they did little stuff like they worked the same job for 25 or 30 years, so they had good pensions. They saved money. They kept their credit score high. They paid off their house, and they never ever once needed our financial support. So when I got my first job and I was making over six figures, it was my money. It was like, okay, so congratulations. Like, what are you gonna do now? It wasn't like we're having a financial emergency. Can you send a check? At the same time, I had a friend who was finishing her program at the same time I was, and we were both excited about all this money we'd be making. But her experience was really, really stressful because every single week her parents would call her for money and she'd get a check, a big check. It might be after taxes for the month, like $7,000 or something like that, $8,000, and she'd have to send half of that back home because not only would there be bills to pay, but they'd be behind on the bills. They were always behind. There was always a financial emergency to fix, and that just made it hard. It's really hard to save and invest in everything when you're constantly taking care of other people. So this is one of the reasons why, in my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, I wrote about sort of thinking about the economic success as an ecosystem, right? Creating a culture of economic success so that all of you are rising up together. So it's not one person kind of doing well and everybody else kind of eating off that one person, right? So because if you have a strong ecosystem, it's literally one of those things where synergy kicks in. Synergy is where two plus two is not four. Synergy is where two plus two becomes seven, right? Because now you've got this economy between all of you. You have the trust that's there. All of you are doing well. All of you are hooking each other up. You have Damon Dash. When I used to go to California, hang out with Damon. Every now and then Damon would say something that made sense. Some stuff he said, I'd be like, man, come on, that's crazy. But I remember him talking about a circle of success. And circle of success means, like, hey, all of us are a circle and we're hooking each other up, taking care of each other, and all of us are doing well. And the way I would refer to that is an economic gang. You want to get gang affiliated, right? And economic gangs exist everywhere. That's all that NAFTA is. NAFTA is an economic gang. It's where the U.S., Mexico, and Canada got together and said, let's form free trade agreements so that we can all prosper together, hook each other up, bail each other out. The European Union is an economic gang. It's a circle of success where they bring all the countries together under one currency, under one set of rules, and you can travel freely back and forth, and trade just sort of flows between them and all that. But the problem with a circle of success, though, is that you are only as strong as your weakest link. You're only strong as your weakest link, and if you have any bullies in the circle, then you're going to lose as well. So ultimately, what happens with a lot of coalitions, and this is one of the reasons why we created the Black Financial Therapy Department, is because basically, if you don't have emotional discipline and emotional intelligence, then your circle of success probably won't work, right? Like Dr. Ken Harris, who's a great guy. He has a PhD in economics from Michigan State University. We partnered with him on the All Black National Convention. He has a great saying where he says, "Negroes with egos is a no-go." And I said, I like that. I could work with this guy. I like that because I done sat down with Negroes with egos, and you can't. It's hard to form any kind of coalition because it's like, my lord, like you're just gonna beat everybody up. Like you're a jerk. Nobody wants to work with an asshole. But then the other thing too is nobody wants to work with a loser. Nobody wants to work with a mooch. And so the version of a mooch in the European Union is Greece. Greece is basically the ghetto cousin. They want to be in the circle of success so they can get the benefits, but they don't want to have any discipline. They don't That fiscal discipline is not something that Greece believes in. They don't want to cut spending at all. They want to spend like crazy, go deeper and deeper in debt. Their productivity isn't very high because they don't want to work. It's like, well, what the hell y'all want to do? Like, how are you gonna? So what happened was, anybody remember Brexit? How many of y'all remember Brexit? Remember Brexit when that happened, when London and the British disconnected from the EU in certain ways? Brexit was driven by the fact that there were British people who said, "Man, we're doing our part. We're bringing the money, and cousin Greece is showing up to the cookout, and they ain't bringing no food. They're eating, but they're eating the most food. They're eating more than we are, and they're not even bringing anything." Right? So that doesn't work. That does not. So coalitions don't last if you don't have a code of conduct. right? So that's why I did call my book The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power, because I'm like, yeah, let's make some rules so that if we follow these rules, we can have a structure that everybody agrees on, and just have a code of behavior in terms of how we deal with each other, how we support each other, how we can hook each other up, bail each other out, and still have trust in the system to know that we're going to be safe and respected and protected, but also expected to provide support and security for others. Donald Trump, for example, is not a great person to form coalitions with. He wants to invade Greenland, or he talked about invading Greenland. They're like, dude, this is you're violating NATO. Like this was our little gang, our little clique. You can't beat up the homie Greenland. Like what are you talking about? Like Denmark's gonna be right. So it didn't work. It doesn't work. So Donald Trump's not he's broken a lot of these pacts. But the converse of that though, the European countries haven't held up their end of the bargain either. There's agreements in terms of how much they'll spend on defense and certain things they'll do with their economies. And they're not, the United States is the economic driver and the military driver of these coalitions. They'll protect everybody. We'll send troops all around the world and to go and defend your shores or whatever. But the Europeans, Europeans are, they're a little more chill. They're not like us crazy Americans. They don't make as much money because they have, like rules and regulations and laws, and I kind of like it. It's like much more comfortable to live in Europe. Like they actually have like good schools and safe streets and all these other things. But the downside of that though is they're highly overregulated. So their economic productivity is not that great. Their stock market has been garbage for a while. The U.S. stock market has been roaring. Europe, they're like, yeah, you can put your money in Europe if you want to, but it's not coming back anytime soon, or you're not going to make very much. So really, with these coalitions, you kind of want to be equally yoked with the people that are on your team. That's my point, right? If everybody's equally yoked, it kind of works a little bit better. But like if it's like the Chicago Bulls, right? Like Michael Jordan was super intense, and he was okay with being the leader. He was the one. He was like the United States of the Chicago Bulls, where he was a bit of an asshole, but he was going to win a championship, and he wanted the ball in the last second, and he would go score those points and win a ring for you. He would talk about that. He'd say, I saw this guy at the end of the bench, and he's a nice guy, so I went and won a ring for him. At the same time, though, he had very little tolerance for anybody that got in the way of the mission, right? He was not, he said, that basically we're a championship caliber clique, and if you're not ready to play your position and play it well, then I want you out of here. And that kind of creates a little bit of a friction. But then again, maybe you have a team that has a losing culture, and they're like, yeah, we're okay with losing as long as we all like each other. Then that means like a Michael Jordan wouldn't fit in that kind of situation, right? So it's kind of about making the decision as a family unit. What kind of family are we going to be? Like I think that when you form your circles of success, which I hope that you do, I would encourage you to get to know who you are and what you want to be, and then really align yourself with people who kind of think in the same way. Maybe it starts with things like marriage. Like if you're here and they're here, it's hard for the marriage, right? Or when you talk about raising kids, you're both here. Then you train the kids to be here so that the whole family's here. A lot of times I've seen really successful people who teach nothing to their kids, so their kids cannot maintain the standard of excellence that the parents might have set. So they don't know anything about what you went through and what you battled through to become successful because you never talked to them about it. You never taught them that, right? Because life taught you. Life was your teacher. You went through hell, so you had to overcome difficult situations to become wealthy. So that's why you have resilience. That's why you make certain choices in certain ways, and you have a certain amount of intensity that you protected them from. So many middle class black people go through this where they're doing well and they believe that loving your kids means protecting them from all the bad things you went through, all the disappointments, all the heartbreaks, all the struggles. And so they show up and they're like they're these little puffy, little powder puff, little chubby ass, little weak ass little kids. And you're like, you're not my child. You don't know what we went through in the 90s. Well, of course they don't know. They didn't live in the 90s. They have no clue. They think this is what life is supposed to be like. And it's your fault too. You did that. So stop that. Stop acting like you ain't had nothing to do with it. Yeah, right. So really it's like it's a decision making process. In fact I even think that it's kind of weird. Like we really think that our children should never ever suffer. And suffering taught me so many things about like what life I didn't want to have. It taught me so many things about about what I really want, and how to get the things I want, right? You can't have joy without a little bit of pain, and I think we protect the kids from pain, which devoids them of any form of real joy. Like some of these kids are so spoiled. You can hand them $100 bill, and they'll just look at it, they won't even care. Or you offer them a great job, the kind of job you would have been excited about, and they're like, I don't want a job. Why would I go to work? Right? So it's kind of strange, right? So anyway, let me keep going here. Let me keep reading. All right, so we were talking about Glorilla and her sister, but y'all know me. I like to look at the whole lesson, not just the anecdote. But here's another thing that happens. This is according to research. The crab mentality is something that's been researched. So envy and social comparison. So often referred to in research as upward social comparison. This occurs when family members feel a blow to their self-esteem because your success highlights their lack of success, right? So when you succeed, when you get taller, it reminds them of how short they are. When y'all was the same height, if we're the same height, I can pretend like I'm as tall as Wilt Chamberlain. But when you really are Wilt Chamberlain, then I'm gonna start feeling like a midget. So the research is that to mitigate the pain of feeling less than, others may use tall poppy syndrome. Never heard of that. These are tactics where they try to cut you down so everybody's the same height. Have anybody ever seen that? Where somebody literally feels like they're doing better because they can make it so that you're doing worse. I thought about that when I saw Glorilla's sister, like literally humiliating her, telling stories about peeing in the bed and roaches on their face and stuff like that. And I didn't like that. I kind of felt bad for her for that. And to be quite frank, she kind of showed you why her sister might have cut her off. Like, oh gosh, if you act like this all the time, that's kind of a scary thing. So a lot of times, you see that happen a lot, or people that are intimidated by you. Maybe ladies, y'all black women, y'all got all these master's degrees and MDs and PhDs, and maybe you try to date down because you don't want to be uppity, and then you deal with a man who is insecure about your achievements, and so he chops you down in order to feel better about himself. And I think that that's just such a waste because it's like, well, why, if you are a man who thinks that way, why don't you just level your game up? Like her success has nothing to do with your lack of success. Just use that as inspiration to do better, And but then at the same time, though, I've seen it go both ways too. I've seen great men get chopped down by women that really maybe it's hyperfeminism or something where they're like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm equal to you by undermining you at every available opportunity. When you start talking, I'm going to cut you off and I'm going to tell you what to do because I've been doing that with my son, and he's your man, he's not your son. And I think sometimes women have to learn that too, right? So ultimately that need to chop people down or to control and constrain people is just something I've seen happen. I've seen it happen so much that I have a whole theory about it. I'm not gonna go into it, but I have a whole theory that some people don't understand that loving someone isn't the same as really caring about that person. Like you can love a car. Like I can love a house. I can love this ink pen. I can be like, man, this is my favorite ink pen. Yeah, I love this ink pen, right? But I don't care about that ink pen. If this ink pen stops working, you know what I'm gonna do with this pen? You know what I'm gonna do? This ink pen that I love. You know what's gonna happen if this ink pen stops working? I'm gonna throw it in the garbage because I got 10 others right over here. So I love this ink pen, but I do not care about this ink pen. So I figured this out. This is Uncle Boyce talking. Don't find somebody that loves you. Find somebody that cares about you. Because somebody that cares about you is gonna want what's best for you. Somebody that cares about you is gonna want you to do well. Somebody that cares about you is gonna want you to be happy. Somebody that cares about you is gonna want you to be your best. Sometimes someone loves you and they feel like love means I must possess you. Like this pen. Like you come try to take this pen, I'm gonna fight you. Right? If you take this pen, I don't want this pen to be in the hands of the person who's gonna get the best use of it. No, if you take this pen, I might stab you with it because this is my favorite pen. I like this pen. I'm kidding. I won't stab nobody. But seriously though, like sometimes love shows up as strangulation and possession more so than actual care. And I think that those are two different things. So anyway, with that being said, though, that need to chop people down, that crab mentality, envy, and social comparison, that's called tall poppy syndrome. So when it comes up, when somebody starts acting a fool or feeling that making your life worse makes their life better, just explain to them, say, hey, it looks like you're engaging in tall poppy syndrome tactics, and that's highly inappropriate. All right, so basically, the pressure is that financial demands end up serving two purposes in the tall poppy syndrome. One, they provide a material benefit to the family member. So as they drain your success, So they, wow, they provide a material benefit to the family. So they drain your success, which reduces the gap. Holy crap. And it also, and then let's see, between you and them, and it feels smaller and less threatening to their ego. Okay. So that's the main thing, right? So as they're draining you, you're doing worse off because you're trying to go take care of this other person. They're doing better, so they feel more equal to you. Does that make sense? Like you're doing well, so I'm doing well. Like, anyway, let's keep going. One more thing. There's something called what they call a cultural wealth drag. In many cultures, particularly those that are collectivist, there is a phenomenon known as the kinship tax or the success tax. The research says that first generation high earners show that these individuals often provide significant financial support to extended family. While this strengthens the safety net, it creates a wealth drag that prevents a successful individual from building long-term generational wealth. So, on one hand, it part of it makes sense, right? The black tax is real, and I believe in the black tax. Does anybody else do this? Here's a little thing I do. Tell me if y'all ever do this. If I go to a restaurant and the waiter or waitress is black, I always tip them extra, as long as they're like nice. I always give them like a little bump up. Like I always, if you're black, especially if you're black and like you're in school, or whatever, you look like you might be a mom or something. Like I'll be like, oh, she's a mom. Let me just throw some extra, right? So I'll be going 30, sometimes 40%, depending on how I'm feeling that day with the tip, right? And then if you're really bad though, the lowest I'll go is maybe 10 or 15%. If you're terrible, like if you're really mean, I won't give you zero because you're black. But if you weren't black, I might go to zero, right? So that's fine. The black tax I think is okay. Like so it comes maybe in the form of supporting black businesses or just doing a little bit extra. You see the little kids baseball team, like throw them a couple dollars, right? But the other side of it too is that there is real proof, real research evidence to basically show that there is that is really difficult to build generational wealth because that has to be like forward looking. So if you're looking forward and you're looking back at the same time, you kind of get sandwiched. And that's in addition to all of the other American phenomenon that occur financially. There's something called the sandwich generation where you are, so let's say between 30 and 50, where you've got, or maybe 30 and 55 or so, where you've got kids young enough that they need you, the kids need you and your support, and you've got parents that are aging at the same time. Anybody ever seen that? That pressure, man, that pressure, ooh, buddy, that'll put you through the ringer where you got to take care of mama and or daddy, and you got to take care of the kids. That is tough. That's really tough. And the thing is that this is where stability or lack thereof of family structure matters, or the investments matter. So for example, if you are the only child and you're taking care of your mother, who you're a single mom, and you got kids that also need you, that's a lot of pressure on one person. That's a massive bottleneck, right? As opposed to another scenario where you've got a husband and wife that are both doing well financially, and they have some kids they're taking care of, but also they have parents, but their parents are both married and their parents are married and financially stable. Right? Taking care of married, financially stable parents is very different from taking care of the mom who is 75 years old and struggling, and also struggling in terms of health and resources, right? So these sort of long-term plans on financial stability, it has to be thought out. And it has to be something where it's taken seriously. Like it's really one of the biggest points. Somebody sent a B1 story, and they said that they when they read the book, the Ten Commandments book, they were really happy that I made the point about your kids being an asset, and they are like that just the fact that we only think about it in a short-term kind of framework is very strange to me, because if you just think about that, just that pressure of taking care of an aging parent by yourself when you still got to go to work and you still got to take care of your kids, versus having two or three financially stable siblings where you can distribute the labor, that right there is a game changer. Or when my mother was sick, my father was in the house with her. And but the challenge for us was that they both got sick at the same time. So then it's like we're taking care of both of them, but I had two siblings I could call on the phone, and we all had two things that worked in our favor: money and time. We all had the money to get on an airplane and go and do whatever, and we had the time. When my mother was really sick and getting her last treatments, we spent 2 months. I spent 2 months with her. right? So not to, and I'm not bragging about it, I'm just saying that these things, this is what you're aiming for. This is the win. This is what I'm not putting myself on a pedestal. Don't please don't. If I sound like that, please forgive me. That's not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is that all the stupid stuff they tell you to fight for is really dumb. All the stuff that matters to so many people, it's like, no, 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 that's not what's going to do it for you. What matters is if you have resources and time, then you ultimately have what Charles Johnson refers to as peace in the chat. Thank you, Charles. I see you. All right, so you have peace because I have enough money to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, and I have enough time to go do it. Nobody's going to call me from my dying mother's bedside telling me I got to go to work that day. Also, you want to the critical thinking skill when you develop that in the kids, they then are able to become the problem solvers that they need to be to navigate a very complex world. The world is complicated. It is very complicated, and it's really complicated when you're black. And so this is one of the reasons, this is where I get incredibly radical and I say, I don't think black kids should even be educated by other people. I think black people should be educating black kids so they can be prepared for life. Like life is it's a competition, but it's not a game. It is a very high stakes competition. And if you ain't ready, it will kick you all up in your whole entire ass. Right? So this is what I see, and this is my truth. Okay, so thank you for listening. So since I've been so serious, I'm gonna take. Let's go to Instagram, and I'm gonna show you something that'll make us laugh, so that we don't, so you don't, so I ain't making nobody depressed. Um, oh, by the way, I'm gonna do a deep dive in about a week or two on silver. A lot of you asked me about silver, so I did some research and pulled some stuff together. So I'm gonna do a whole hour and a half presentation on silver, like the whole industry, what's going on with it, whether or not you may want to invest in it, how to invest in it safely. Silver is a highly speculative commodity because the price has gone up so much. And so there are ways to invest in it where you can reduce your risk and still benefit from the upside. So that we'll do that. That's a group we have, the Dr. Boyce Deep Dive. So I'll send you guys a link on that. Make sure you're on the text list for this class. Text the word morning to the number 87948 if you haven't done it, but most of you have because that's why you're here most likely live. So Dr. Boyce, text morning to the number 87948. Now let's go to Instagram real quick. I've been really busy on my Instagram lately. I did some just flat out ignorant stuff. So let me show you. Let me show you something I did. So first off, I decided to, I'm experimenting with AI and I made a little movie. But it's not a long movie. It's like a movie trailer for a movie called Reparations. So you see me, can y'all see it? So I'm like the guy. They make me look all heroic and stuff because it's my movie. I'm going to just make myself look however. And it's like me traveling in time to go back and get the reparations. All right, so you ready? All right, so here it goes. Let me know if you can hear it. It's very short. I'm gonna play it now.
When injustice survives time, justice must break it. They built power on chains and called it law. You can't own what refuses to kneel.
So that's me going back and freeing all the slaves and getting our money back. So anyway, let's go back. All right, so here's another one. Let me play another. This is I don't have a title for this, but this is I was thinking about this when I was thinking about like what families go through when there's no estate plan. So here's this one, right? Oh, wait, sorry, before I do that, this is just a little joke about Bitcoin. There was a big lie going around that Bitcoin was digital gold. So many people lied to themselves and said that if the market crashes, Bitcoin was going to protect them from a market crash. And what they're finding is that Bitcoin is crashing with the market. So Bitcoin is not digital gold. Gold is digital gold. That ticker symbol is GLD. GLD is the gold trust. So this battle is no longer a battle. It's no longer a question. It's no longer a competition. It's been resolved. So that's why I just put this up there because Bitcoin is like the little bum asking y'all still hiring, and gold is chilling because gold's been killing it. All right, so let's go to the next one.
There ain't no will. It's probate now.
No, I ain't selling the urn. That's Big Mama. Ow!
Mama told me the house was mine. She ain't write it down, but she said it right here.
She also told you to stop gambling. It'll be 18 to 24 months minimum. If the house has back taxes or liens, we may lose
I
it.
paid the water bill in 2009.
You used Granny's credit card to buy rims. She said the deed was in the Bible. We lost the house for a two-piece?
There ain't no will. It's probate now.
Okay, so do you see that? Did y'all get the joke? So it's not a joke though. It's not funny, but literally, the worst thing you want to have happen if somebody dies, because all of us are gonna die, is to have your assets stuck in probate because they will lock your stuff up for a couple of years and nobody will be able to touch it. So so that's where the probate comes from. Now here,
No, I ain't selling the urn. That's Big Mama. Ow!
okay, so that's Big Mama's urn. She done knocked Big Mama's ashes all over the ground. That ain't right. All right, moving on.
Mama told me the house was mine. She ain't write it down, but she said it right here.
She also told you to stop gambling.
Okay, so this is where the kids are arguing because Big Mama never wrote it down. She never listed her final wishes. She never made it clear. There's a void in leadership, which leads to chaos. Whenever there is a leadership void, it leads to chaos. If you want to see an example of this, go watch that 1997 movie Soul Food. When Big Mama died, y'all remember what happened when Big Mama died? That everybody started fighting. They weren't the unity, the coalition, the gang had broken up. So ultimately, if you are the Big Mama, if you are the Big Daddy, if you are the mother, the father, the leader, you have to be clear. You have to engage in clear leadership. I'm going to bring in, there's a really smart lady named Dr. Nicole Price that you may have seen. She was here probably a couple years ago, that is an expert on leadership. I'm going to bring her to class because you want to really understand the impact of your role as the leader of that family. And just documenting things, sitting down, as Calvin is saying, I agree with you, Calvin, just sitting down and making sure that everything gets laid out is incredibly important. Just something like some kind of guideline so people have documentation to support their point. Because if you just say, "Baby, I want you to have the house," or "I want you to have the cat," or whatever, like that may not stand up in court, so to speak. That may not stand up when the family is debating who's going to get the cat. Well, Big Mama told me I could have the cat. Well, she told me the same thing, right? No, if Big Mama writes it down and there's an official document, then the word is spoken. And when you're gone, that authority has disappeared. And in any culture, when centralized leadership disappears, tribalism forms. People start fighting for power. That's all the Game of Thrones is all about. All the Game of Thrones is all about is the Targaryens let go of centralized power. And when they let go of their centralized power, you had seven kingdoms that all made claim to the throne. And when seven people are making claim to one throne, you have to have a war. You have to have a war. So when you got seven grandkids who all believe that they deserve a big chunk of grandma's money, you're gonna have a fight. You're gonna have a battle. It happens all the time. Don't do that to your family. It's gonna be terrible. All right, so moving on. A couple more things. Let's finish this video so we can talk through it.
It'll be 18 to 24 months minimum. If the house has back taxes or liens, we may lose
I
it.
paid the
Okay, so there we go. That's probate again. So let's keep going.
water bill in 2009.
You used Granny's credit card to buy rims. She said
Okay, Granny's credit card to buy rims. That's the interesting thing is I've seen cases where people have worked their whole life to build wealth and they give it to like a child who has a stupid mindset. And I'll never forget the old man I met, who owned a bunch of fast food restaurants. He'd worked his whole life. He was 80 and he was still working, and he wanted to pass these restaurants down to his son, and his son wanted to be a rapper. So I remember thinking, wow, if his son gets a hold of these millions of dollars, first thing he's going to do is blow it all on rapper stuff. Rappers typically, traditionally, are not the best when it comes to wealth preservation. So let's keep going.
the deed was in the Bible. We lost the house for a two-piece?
Okay, so grandma said the deed was in the Bible, and instead there was a receipt for Popeye's chicken. So we lost the house for a two-piece. So grandma's house gets repossessed a lot. Two of the things that get often get lost when somebody dies for sure is the business. The business will either die or somebody will buy it for pennies on the dollar, or the house. The grandma's house is the asset that where no one sat down to really make sure everything was secured. You could probably secure a lot in just one meeting. Like you could probably sit down for like 45 minutes, like less time than it takes to watch one quarter of a football game, and just have the basics kind of done. Just like, okay, where's the deed? What's going on with this, and how do you pay that, and what's just like some little documents. I would encourage you to just do that because a lot of us lose our grandma's. I lost my grandma's house, and I hate that because that house, they were there for 60 years, and I wish we had it. If we had it, I think at the time I was kind of young, so I wasn't, I didn't feel empowered to go and take over, which I regret. But it's like, man, I could have probably afforded to keep that house, and it has so many memories there, and you can't replace the memories from grandma's house. All right, so that's it. So that's enough for today. It was great to see you guys. God bless you. And also, if you don't remember, we have financial workbooks and flashcards and stuff for kids. And if you haven't seen our workbooks, they're really good. They cover every grade band. And the website is financialworkbooks.com. And you can use the code morning70, and it literally takes 70% off even the discount price. So you can actually buy stuff like this and resell it if you are hosting events, or if you have a homeschool network or something like that. So, for example, this is our Black Millionaires of Tomorrow book on stocks for middle school kids. I think this is the one for middle school kids. And the price is 49, but it's dropped to 39. And actually, with this code, because you're in this class, you can actually take 70% off that price, if I'm not mistaken, which makes it affordable enough that you can literally buy them and resell them if you want. And I'll never stop you from doing that, because if you're making money, then I'm happy for you. And it's also supporting the school. So we have a lot of good stuff here. drboycebooks.com is the space where we have our Black Wealth Mastery store. So there's my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can buy autographed copies of the book. You can get my book, Financial Lovemaking. So there's a lot of stuff there. So feel free to go to drboycebooks.com. All right, guys. So have a wonderful day. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And have a wonderful day, everybody.